just going through the Texas roster about a month ago now, and there's been games like Texas A&M where we left kind of more impressed by A&M than we thought we were going to be going into it. But the Texas one, we left a little lower on Texas than we were going into it. Now, we both still picked Texas to be one of our losses this year, even though we were lower on it. But just quickly here, one thing that really shocked us or kind of worried us about Texas was their interior of the defensive line. We're just quickly do this here, but like we looked at that and it's a lot of transfers, some young guys. What is your expectation of that defensive line?
So going into the offseason, I thought I was worried about it, but then the guys they picked up, I really like. Murad Watson, I really love that guy coming over from Syracuse. Apparently, absolutely killing it in camp so far. He's been like unblockable. Him and Alex January have seemed to step up the most. Alex January was a freshman last year and played a decent amount down the stretch. And I think he's going to have a really big sophomore season. He's actually my breakout player for Texas on defense. I think he's going to be really good. And then you have other guys like Cole Brevard coming over from Purdue, kind of like a payroll type season where he wants to make as much money as possible because guess what? This is like his final film before he goes to the NFL. So he needs to put that on tape. Travis Shaw kind of in the same situation. He's a former 5-star guy from North Carolina transferring over. So I think that it's deep. It's not super talented, but it is very deep. But I kind of just trust him at this point because the last, 2 years, you've had 4 guys get drafted in the top 100 in the NFL draft from the defensive tackle spot. So, I mean, that's really good proof of concept there. And I think the edge group is probably the best in the country. I mean, you go 4 deep there with 4 very, very talented players. And apparently Justice Terry and Lance Jackson, who are both 5-star players, freshmen, are doing very well. As well on this defensive line. And they're going to slide inside as well on some downs on a NASCAR package, for example. When we have 8 guys out there just trying to rush the passer, we'll slide them inside and probably use them as pass rushers. And then on other downs, they'll play defensive end. So I'm actually super high on the defensive line itself.
Yeah, so you messaged me you want to do this. Do you want to start our offense versus your defense or vice versa?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we'll take a look at your defensive depth chart here. We already kind of started it a little bit talking about the defensive line. I mean, we looked at this and we saw Travis Shaw, Cole Brevard, and it's guys with solid to good production at their other schools, but nothing like the SEC. And it's nothing like what we've seen from Texas over the past couple of years. And it's like, hey, one of Florida's biggest strengths is our offensive line. We returned 4 of 5 starters. And the other starter, the new starter, was 6th on our team in snaps last season. This is a veteran group that graded out as one of the best in the country last year. And again, I just said how he returned so many players on it. And if Florida is going to want to be able to win this matchup, now this is a home game, so having the home crowd as a factor is really good for Florida. But if you're looking at it on paper and looking at the teams, Florida's offensive line, if it can really win on the interior, and hey, a bunch of new players on that Texas D line, if they can win right there, maybe that's how Florida is able to open up this game.
No, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think you guys probably have the best or second best offensive line we'll face all year. I think Ohio State's offensive line is very good. They have some guys that haven't played a lot at Ohio State, but transferring over as well. And then guys that kind of rotated in as well with the injuries they had last year. So between you two, that's one of the best offensive lines. Those are the 2 best offensive lines we're going to play. So I agree. I think I just expect Colin Simmons to take another leap. I think he's going to be a top 2 player in college football this year. I really believe that. I mean, the production you got out of a guy with 325 snaps that had 14 tackles for loss and 9 sacks is absurd as a freshman in the SEC. And a lot of those came down the stretch. And then other guys that I like, Zena Umulazulu, I expect to have a pretty good year this year. A guy that really didn't play much last year, but has put a lot of weight on his frame. Brother of an offensive lineman that we have as well that needs to play a big factor for Texas, but I think he's going to be good. And that's the thing, too. There's just so many guys on this depth chart that you're looking at that are going to play. We're going to go all the way down here to Josiah Sharma. If anyone wants to look up a picture of him, look him up. He looks like a walking refrigerator at 17 years old. It's ridiculous. I've never seen someone with shoulders that big. It's literally ridiculous. Everyone, and then the guys above him will play. And then, like I said, Rod Watson, Alex January, I think are going to have really good years as well.
So I know I said I think Colin Simmons is the best edge rusher in the country. I think he'll be the best edge rusher in the country. And Tyler Natuno, what do you think of the matchup of Colin Simmons versus possibly Austin Barber?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting. I think Barber, I mean, obviously, I think we both agree that Jake Slaughter is the top returning player on this offensive line, but, Barber comes back too. I mean, I think Barber is one of the better tackles in the country. I'm curious. I think, this is a tough matchup. I mean, I think Colin Simmons is about, just at least projecting off of what we saw from his true freshman season. I think he's going to be about as good as it gets in terms of, pass rushers off the edge in college football. So, I mean, it's going to be tough. I think that is where I would say I do worry. Like, I think Florida will have success running the ball inside in this game against, despite, I think that's fair what Matthew's saying about the interior defensive line. And I agree. I trust this coaching staff to handle that position pretty well. But I do think Florida has the talent to have success doing that. That is, I think, a potential breaking point for this Florida offense is if Austin Barber just can't contain what might be the best pass rusher in college football. I say that's probably is a concern, but I think Barber has shown to be able to handle that job.
And then how do you guys feel about Lagway, like the nagging injuries? Like, that's the thing with me. It kind of reminds me, honestly, of Quinn Ewers a little bit, where there's always something. He's never going to be 100% healthy. There's always going to be something he's going to have to battle through. How do you guys look at that?
I mean, yeah, I personally, you want to go ahead?
No, you can go ahead.
I would just say, I mean, I think it's a concern. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like, none of it are injuries that are like, particularly like chronic or lingering. So it's not like there's any specific injury that I'm like, I worry about this being a recurring problem. But I mean, at the end of the day, the dude has started 6 games, 7 games. And he's had at this point, the hamstring injury that limited him last season. He's had the shoulder injury in spring. He's had the sports hernia surgery from a pre-existing injury from high school, and now the calf thing that's limited him in fall. So like, it's a bunch of different nagging things, and that concerns you, especially because of his play style. Is a big guy who maybe isn't like a run first quarterback, but can move around in the pocket and absorb some hits. I think it's concerning. I mean, I think that is, I think it's become a little hackish just because it's the only thing anyone's talking about. But I think it is kind of fair to say that maybe the biggest question for this Florida roster is how many games can DJ Lagway play this season?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a concern. Any injury for any player, especially when they are reoccurring, is getting injuries all the time, is going to be a concern. But one thing that kind of relieves some pressure I have, or some issues I have with it, is that we saw him last year. So he played with that injury, suffered from Georgia, from the LSU game on, and also had that shoulder injury that turns out to be something that he's been dealing with since high school. Yeah, I thought he still looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I know you look at his stats and you see a 12-9 touchdown interception ratio, and his yards weren't crazy. But I think when you watched him on the field, when you saw what he did for the team and how he helped the run game as well, I thought he was still, a top tier level QB, even with those injuries. And that was a very serious injury. I think if he's playing with minor nagging injuries instead of a large injury, I still think you're going to get a progressing and a really good Lagway. And we know he's practicing right now. Yesterday at our scrimmage, he didn't participate in the 11-on-11, but he was on the 7-on-7s. And from what I heard, he did really well in those scrimmages, or in the 7-on-7 scrimmages.
No, I mean, I agree. I have him ranked as the number 1 quarterback in the SEC. We did our projections and everything. I really like him. I tweeted when I watched the LSU game, I tweeted out he's a top 10 pick when he comes out. That's how much I like him talent wise. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm going to give you guys a preview. I think I have us right now going 11-1, and you guys are the loss. So I'm very high on Florida.
Yeah.
My issue is that's literally it. If you could give me 10 plus games, I would 100% say Florida's going 9-3. They're probably going to get in the playoffs. But that's my issue because I like Jane Ball. I really like Dallas Wilson. I like Eugene Wilson. I like your offensive line. There's no weaknesses on this offense, in my opinion. It is DJ Lagway's health that is my biggest concern.
Yeah, there's a comment I want to mention here real quick. Sorry. But Jake Slaughter is a very good center, perhaps the best in the SEC. I like to say he was All-American last year, first team All-American. But at 303 pounds, I don't see him neutralizing the rotation of 340 pounds Cole Brevard and 340-pound Travis Shaw. I think obviously that's a very good point, and you look back and not many centers who could. But you look back at last year where he was the best center in the country and he faced a murderer's row of the defensive linemen. I mean, Tennessee, Norman Lott, UCF with Lee Hunter, Texas A&M with Shamar. Not
Stewart?
was it Stewart?
Is it Turner? It's
They
one
were
of
both.
the.
They were both
Yeah.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those two. Dion Walker, Dion Walker and Keyshawn Silver, Kentucky. Kristen Miller at Georgia, Texas. Like again, we played Walter Nolan. So many really good defensive linemen, where he still came out as one of the best centers, the best center in the country when you watch them play and when you look at the PFF grades. So obviously, a one-game scenario where Jake Slaughter has a bad game and your guys have a good game, it could go out in your favor. But I think it's valid concern, and one of the reasons I think he didn't declare for the draft, he still needs to put a bit of weight on. But I don't know if I'm too worried about that, considering the players he faced last season.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be concerned about it because, I mean, I've seen guys like Parker Brailsford as well at Alabama. That guy's really small, and he's really good at what he does. Jason Kelsey was small in the NFL, good at what he does. It's all about leverage. And if you play with good leverage at the offensive line position, you'll be fine.
Yeah. Question I have for you, Matthew, because you mentioned that, like, you looking at the offense, you don't see really like a clear weak link. And I mostly agree. If I had to pick one, I'd say it's probably the receiving core, just because I think there's some projection involved. It's more, I think there's a lot of banking on talent versus like actual proven production. So that to me sets up what I think is maybe the most interesting matchup of this game, honestly, which I'm curious how you feel about that receiving core against the Texas secondary. Obviously, you guys bring some production back, but then lose guys like Andrew Makuba and Jahdae Barron. So I'm curious what, like, first of all, what you just expect from the secondary this season in general, and then how you kind of view this matchup.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup. I mean, it's going to be impossible to replace Jahdae. I don't expect Malik Muhammad to play up to that standard. Obviously, back-to-back Thorpe winner, I don't see that happening. But can Malik Muhammad be the 15th best corner in the country, and then whoever slides in on the other side, with right now that's probably going to be Jalen Gilbo sliding out from nickel to the other cornerback position. Can he be good and not be a fall off from what Malik Muhammad was last year? I think that's possible. And if that's the case with the better pass rush that you're going to have, I think they can be really good on defense, because I agree. That's probably the biggest question on the Texas defense, because I don't really have a question with the linebackers. I don't really have a question with the edges or the defensive tackles right now. But secondary, there's a little bit, because Andrew Makuba, like you said, really good football player, really great instincts. And you saw that all the time. He would make plays off the ball, running out of nowhere, making interception or making a big hit. So you're going to miss that. But then you do bring in Michael Taft back, who really good, really underrated player. He's going to slide around all around on the defense this year as well. He's running nickel right now, mainly, which is weird. I did not see that happening, but they slid him down to nickel. He'll also play safety. And you have three legit safety options. Like Jelani McDonald's a really good football player for Texas. Derek Williams, I think, is the most talented secondary player on the roster right now for Texas. His issue has been health. And then we have Michael Taft obviously coming back, and you'll see those three probably rotate between safety and then nickel. Derek Williams more safety than nickel. But there's a lot of talent out there as well. Like Kobe Black, really talented cornerback, 5-star kid. Jalen Gilbo can be, like I said, really good cornerback out there. Cage Phillips, who is a 5-star freshman, I think can be good, but I don't think he factors in that much this year.
Yeah, so a question I want to ask, continuing again with your viewing point on our wide receiver core, I'm pretty high on it. I mean, I think J. Michael Sturdivant in the right system now could really have a true breakout year and be one of those receivers that not many people saw coming. And where do you look at our receiving core and comparing it to your defensive back room? And do you be like, okay, that worries me a bit? Or is it more of just, hey, DJ Lagway is going to be able to get to his guys and our running room is going to open it for our receivers?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think so. The only concern I have pass defense-wise is probably your tight end position. That's going to be my biggest concern versus anyone you face, because Anthony Hill, if he does have one weakness, it's dropping into coverage consistently. I've seen him get beat once in a while. Leona LaFau, I think, is a little bit better at that, but we'll have to see. He's still not the best at it. Trey Moore still kind of getting used to that position, getting pushed out from edge to there. I think you're going to see him and Brad Spence kind of like share the role at middle linebacker and edge. So I don't know how they're going to do guarding your tight end, but that'd be my biggest concern. Other than that, I don't, like I said, in the past game, do I think they're going to be as good as last year? No, because I think last year it was something crazy, like 8 touchdowns and 22 interceptions in the passing game against this Texas defense. That's probably not going to happen again. But I still think they're going to be really good.
Yeah, something to maybe ease your concerns a little bit about our tight end. I mean, Hayden Hansen going into his 4th year as a redshirt junior. You look at his stats here: 207 yards, 1 touchdown last year. I do think we had a tight end, Arliss Boardingham, who we thought was going to be a breakout player last year, but ended up not doing well. It's now at Bowling Green. I mean, maybe he can become the next Harold Fannin, but don't know if you get that from what we saw last year. So I've heard a lot of good things about the work he's been putting in, really training his route running. But for a 6'7", 270-pound tight end, I don't know if it's going to be too much of a trouble for Anthony Hill or these linebackers to keep up with him in coverage. I think maybe where Florida could have an advantage if a tight end was to break out, it would be our redshirt freshman, Amir Jackson, former top 100 recruit, a true receiving threat tight end compared to these guys here. So maybe that's where Florida could have an advantage. But unless we do see Amir Jackson break out, which we play 2 big games before we play Texas, I don't know if it's something that I would be predicting.
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at it is, I mean, yeah, I think the tight end. Yeah, if there's one position to have concerns with stopping Florida, tight end's a pretty good one to have because we don't really have a lot proven there. Hayden Hansen probably is going to play a big role this year, but probably really more of a guy that should be the second tight end for like 12 personnel packages. I mean, I think, to me, like, I think Florida can have some success running the ball in this game. I think throwing over the middle of the field is going to be a struggle, just because of how good that linebacker core is. I think the hope is that Florida has a pretty explosive passing game this year because we kind of know that's how DJ Lagway wants to play. He's looking deep to shallow. Like, that's just kind of how he processes the field. So I really do think that secondary versus receiver matchup could end up being so pivotal in determining what happens this game, because I think if Florida can hit explosive plays, I think they'll stay in this one. If they're having to dink and dunk their way down the field against Texas, I think it's going to end up being a pretty long night. We'll see, I guess.
So my last question here about your defense, a player that I really like and was really good at his former school before going to Texas, that I'm just not sure what he is. What is Trey Moore? I remember we discussed it. Like, is he an edge rusher? Is he a true linebacker? I mean, what is he doing for you guys?
So they're cross-training him to play linebacker, but it's hard for me to believe that the guy, I think in his final 7 games, had all of his sacks. He had 5.5 sacks in his last 7 games. He really came on down the stretch at the edge position. Can you take that guy off that position and say you can't really rush the passer anymore? You're going to be dropping into coverage most of the time. That's hard for me to believe they're just going to do that 100%. What Texas loves to do on both sides of the ball, but especially the defensive side of the ball, they love positional versatility. So that's why you have guys like Brad Spence and Trey Moore that can, kind of do both. They can drop back into coverage, but they can also rush the passer. So I do think they're going to, 60-40. I think he's a linebacker 60% of the time, 40% the other time. I think he's going to be an edge. That's what I think is going to happen. Because at the next level, I think he just wants to show what he can do for that next level, because he kind of doesn't have a home right now. If you look at his body type, he's kind of a tweener at every position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that I think kind of answers our question, because I think a lot of confusion about him, like an interesting player, but just we weren't quite sure how he's going to fit into what Texas is trying to do defensively this year.
I'm looking at our lads, and it says his transfer school is UCLA. Wasn't he for UTSA?
I thought the same thing. I noticed that, and I thought the same thing. Yeah, that has to be.
Yeah, it's UTSA.
Okay, so this is just error on their system. And I guess we can finish it off talking about who I think might even be the best defensive player, maybe the best player in the country, Anthony Hill, your linebacker. I mean, I don't think there's a linebacker that even comes close to him in the country. And it's coming from me, like, we have a very talented linebacker core. Pup Howard, Miles Graham, Aaron Childs. just had a phenomenal scrimmage yesterday from what we were told. Jada Robinson, like, we have some good linebackers. I would trade all of them just for Anthony Hill. Like, that's how good I think he is. He had 8 sacks last year, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 sacks last year, but can rush the passer, but also it can drop back and stop the run. And you say he struggles a bit in pass coverage, but as we talked about earlier, I'm not sure that's too much of a worry unless you get to a point to where he's having to cover a receiver, maybe. But better than Harold Perkins.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I'm nitpicking here. Like, that's his weakness, but he's still better than most linebackers at it. Yeah. The guy's a freak. I think at the next level, he's an edge. I really do. Like, having 8 sacks as a middle linebacker when you're barely blitzing or playing off the edge is ridiculous. I think if he's just a pure edge, he's getting 10 sacks a year. So he's a freak athlete. We knew when I was watching him as a freshman in that Alabama game, I was like, yep, that's a 3-year guy. He will be completely gone after 3 years. So cherish him while he's here. This is last year. So cherish him, and we'll see what he does. I'm expecting butt kiss. That's my opinion. That's what I expect from him this year. And I think he expects that from himself. He's a great player.
So looking forward, you think he's kind of a like Micah Parsons, like don't overcomplicate it kind of guy?
Yes, that's right. That's where I'd put him. I think you need to gain like 15 pounds for that, but it's just natural instincts of getting after the quarterback. I mean, having 13 and a half sacks as a middle linebacker in college is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll end up talking about the defense here. So you have this penciled in as a loss for Texas. If Texas wants to win this game, what is the one player on defense that has to stand out and has to maybe take over the game?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say I agree. I think not one player, but one position, the defensive tackles, because I think Jake Ball is probably how you win this game, more of game control, and then, like you said, take the shots off the play action. I think that's how you win the game. So I think you have to contain Jaden Ball in your rushing attack. I really like Jaden Ball. I liked him last year. So I think he's in line for a really big year for you guys. And I think that's the guy we'd have to stop defensively. And I think that's going to come down to Murad Watson, Alex January, Josiah Sharma, Travis Shaw, all those guys. I think they're going to have to be the ones to do that.
Perfect.